but they may be establishing a culture where you don't just come to Cleveland, play for the Browns, cash a check, and then go home at the end of the day. And I think that is something that is the biggest positive you can take out of this season, win or lose on Sunday.
That's a good point, and I think one person who's a younger player who has shown that is Fri Dec. I mean, he was pretty severely injured at the beginning of the season. I don't think many people expected him to play at all. But here he kept working hard and getting better, and he was able to get out there, and he's been able to show us in these last few games, some of that talent that caused him to get drafted, even though he was from a real teeny tiny college, and he's put himself into the rotation even higher than Gilbert at some point. So that's something that's really positive to show that rubbing off on the younger guys like him.
Look at Desir last week as you bring him up. Look at that. He gets all this, last game of the season, last 2 games of the season, you got Hayden was out. You got all your guys out. You're as thin as can be in the defensive backfield. And undrafted guys, K'Wan Williams, and these guys are taking your reps. Fri Dec is coming off minimal reps all season, and your number 1 draft pick can't step in. What, he plays 17 snaps or something like that? And again, and see, with Dec, I'm glad you brought him up. That's where when people criticize the Browns drafting this year, I go, man, yes, because the big 2 are the ones that are struggling. But when you go deeper than that, the rest of the draft was good. I thought they did a good job of pulling out those mid-round draft picks, but the problem is it doesn't matter when the headline ones fall off. By the way, the other thing, too, just a side effect for the end of the season here, with all of the focus on Browns rookies, first-round draft picks that came in unprepared or unwilling to work hard or whatever the case may be, think about the effect going forward next year, whoever you are. Player A, you've just been drafted in the first round by the Browns. Your agent is reminding you, hey, go ready, because last year, because that a media story is waiting to be written about the next rookie that came in unprepared. So maybe a side effect of that is next year's first-round draft pick works a little bit harder because he knows that the people are going to be looking for it. The media is going to be looking for it. I'm just saying, those kind of narratives all play into it too. So I think that those are all good things. So I don't know where you're at with that, but regardless, I think those are all positives that have come out of the way this season played out. I think that there's changes internally that the Browns will make. I think there's stuff that they saw that they can do differently within the front office to the coaching staff and all of that. But, I'm going to stick by what I believe. And if I'm wrong here, then I'm way off base. But I believe that Mike Pettin stood his ground through a lot of tough situations this season. And I think he survives it. I mean, you don't think there's a chance in the world that the Browns can't possibly. I know we would have said the same thing last year. For anybody that thinks the Browns are debating a coaching move, I think that would be truly the most insane thing I've ever heard. To me, stability is the key, and I think Mike Pettin showed. Maybe you question Ray Farmer, but I don't question Mike Pettin, and I think the fact has played itself out. The way Manziel ended up proving things as far as right now, and the way this whole season has played out with some of his coaching decisions, the fact that he played undrafted guys all season long, it's going to pay dividends in the future for future Browns teams, for undrafted guys, for lower roster guys to go, hell, Cleveland's the one place we'll go get a chance because those coaches don't care. So you end up with a better team. You will end up with a better overall team if this coaching staff remains in place.
Definitely. I think to do anything other than to bring Pettin back with a warm welcome and, okay, let's come back for year 2 would be Oakland Raiders level of stupid if they were to do that. And, you mentioned the undrafted players. You look at teams that make it, far, some, not this year, but, the Giants, have had really good years as well as the Packers and the Seahawks. When they get there, they've got some undrafted guys who have made it. They've been given the chance, and it's, just behooves, the Browns to, keep turning over every rock to find talent, because those guys are eventually going to make their way to the NFL, and it might as well be for you. So I think that's a good component that they've established with Pettin in his first year, and like you said, I hope that continues.
You're listening to the Sports Fix as we roll into hour two. J-Rock and Jeff Gorman here talking a little bit about the week that was for the Browns, all of these quarterbacks. And again, whether it's Brian Hoyer or Connor Shaw, the opponent that they face this weekend, it's going to be the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens have to win, as you said. They had their destiny in their hands. They still kind of do here, but the Browns do have a chance to play Scrooge here, play the Grinch to the hopes of the Baltimore Ravens fan base here. Talk to me a bit. How is the Ravens mindset coming into this week? Obviously, last week, a head scratcher if you look at what the benefit was for the way they would have played and how they actually played against Case Keenum like that. What kind of Baltimore team are the Browns going to face?
Well, I hope we see the same team we saw last week between the Ravens and the Texans, because the strange thing with the Ravens is it pretty much all comes down to their running game. I mean, Justin Forsett has been a really good running back for them this year. He's got 1,100 yards, but he's been really terrible the last two games. I mean, he's been unable to get anything done. I think he only ran for like 19 yards last week against the Texans. Of course, the Browns have been completely susceptible to the run, and they've pretty much fallen to the bottom of the run defense standing. So it's pretty much a case of the resistible force against the movable object. And you have to hope that the Browns are going to be that team that continues to stuff Forsett, whatever seems to be wrong with him, as opposed to Forsett getting his legs back under him again and ripping off a big game. Because if that happens, then the Browns are going to lose. Because the one difference between the last couple of games for the Ravens is, having this lack of a running attack. Of course, Jacksonville wasn't able to get much running going either, and the reason why the Texans beat them last week is not because of Keenum. Case Keenum didn't really have a great game, but Arian Foster, of course, was able to move the ball on the ground. He even threw a touchdown pass last week. So if the Browns are going to have any chance in this one, despite the fact that the Ravens' secondary is really their weakness, they don't really intercept a lot of passes. That's really where they would be vulnerable. Actually, the Browns' best bet is to get the running attack going in order to take the opportunities away from Joe Flacco and the Ravens offense.
For sure. You mentioned Flacco, by the way. He's got Roethlisberger-esque numbers against the Browns. 12-1 is Joe Flacco's lifetime record against the Browns, and the Browns have never beaten Flacco in Baltimore. The only victory that they have against him is against him here in Cleveland, a home game for the Browns. Browns have lost 6 straight in Baltimore against Flacco. In those last 6, they have only averaged 11 points a game. Now, Joe Hayden coming back perhaps this week, and that would go a long way towards helping in the secondary with Flacco and those weapons they bring. Stopping the run, it doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't go past that. That has been the secret that every team has used to gash the Browns all season long. It's going to continue to be the same here. You've got depth issues. You've got the injuries. We already know that. Nobody new is showing up in the final week of the season here to help the Browns stop the run. You just listed those backs that they've got, and they're one of those offenses that is one of those that plugs a guy in and the next guy steps up, whether it's Rice, whether Forsett and Pierce go down, and then you bring in a guy like Taliaferro. He goes in, and against the Browns did very well. And the Browns traditionally this season have made the guys you haven't heard of look better than some of the ones that you have. But the Browns got to stop that run. I mean, you're right. More than Flacco, more than keying in on anything else, the Browns have to stop the run here today.
Right, and that's a situation where you pretty much have to trust your secondary to perform as well as they have, whether Hayden's back there or not. It's not easy going up against Torrey Smith and Steve Smith, of course, who's had a great year, and then you've got, Owen Daniels at tight end. So they've got, of course, Flacco's always got his weapons, but this is a situation where you've got to really sell out against stopping the run and trust your defensive backs to stop the Ravens receivers, because again, that's really the only way you're going to do it. Because if the Ravens run all over you, it doesn't matter. There's no way the Browns are going to win this game.
No, for sure. And now how about on the flip side? Now, we've talked a little bit about which quarterback. It's going to be truly a game-time decision for the Browns. I mean, based on everything that Mike Pettin has said, I was only half joking when I say if at 11:59 Brian Hoyer says, you know what, I think I can go, Brian Hoyer will start that game on Sunday. This is not, for Mike Pettin and this coaching staff, this is not about evaluating Connor Shaw. They've seen him every week at the practice squad. They're not worried about whether they see him for 1 week in the season or not. This is not a Manziel-type situation. They want to win this game. They want to finish 8-8, does the coaching staff, and they would love to validate this season with a 500 record, no matter how they got here. If Brian Hoyer can go, you can bet your bottom dollar Brian Hoyer will be the quarterback. So it's truly going to be a game-time decision here as far as that goes. If not, what do you expect here, if anything, out of Connor Shaw? I think some of us have seen him in camp. We saw a little bit in the preseason game that he did, which I hold 0.0 weight to. Some people keep throwing out that preseason performance. I'm like, so what? Manziel looked good in the preseason. Well, actually, he didn't look great in the preseason, so there is something to be said for that. But, at the end of the day, and Bruce in the chat room, you're nuts. You can tell me give up the Hoyer bandwagon all you want. Brian Hoyer will be the starting quarterback of this team, and Bruce is just mad that Brian Hoyer's 10 times the quarterback that Johnny Manziel is. But I'm just giving him a hard time over there. But Connor Shaw is the young quarterback in the spotlight this week. If it's him, if Hoyer can't go at the last minute, what do you think? What do you expect to see?
Well, I think the most important thing is going to be giving him some time to throw, because the Ravens secondary is not their strength. Rushing the passer is. So whether it's Hoyer or it's Shaw, you've got to give him a little bit of time to throw and hope that, Shaw, through, whatever natural ability that he has, that, he's had good accuracy in college. Again, there's not much you can go by until you actually see him in a real game. If you can just maybe give him some time to throw, then hopefully he'll be able to do something good, or at least not hurt you too badly, because, the Ravens don't intercept a whole lot of passes. They've only picked off 10 in the whole year, and nobody's picked off more than 2. But, they come at the quarterback big time with Dumerville and, Terrell Suggs and people like that. So I think, especially if Connor Shaw is in there, they're really going to try to mix things up and confuse him with different looks and different blitzes, simply because he just hasn't been out there in a real game before. So from that standpoint, even though I'm sure a lot of the Browns fans want to see what Connor Shaw can do, I think that Hoyer is going to give you a better chance of winning simply because he's been there before, and he should be able to recognize what the Ravens are going to try to throw at him rather than just seeing what Shaw can do for the very first time. So if you want the Browns to win, you should hope that Hoyer is healthy enough to go. If you want to see what Shaw can do, then of course that's what you want.
Right, absolutely. And like I said, man, Mike Pettin can't say pass-fail league more times in his press conferences than he does. 8 wins looks better than 7 on his resume. I'm telling you, to me, no decision as far as playing time that the Browns make on Sunday is going to be made in the effort of evaluation. Now, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, those conversations are different. To me, it's whatever we can do to get through this and try to win this game. And I'll be curious to see what happens. But let me ask you something, man. What do you think happens? Because we talk about all these things. It's easy to go, well, Baltimore is going to run through the Browns like a hot knife through butter. They got the playoffs on the line and all of that. But then all you have to do is simply look back a week ago. You can look back a week ago to how the Browns played and go, you know what? They're not going to beat anybody playing like that. They're not going to get blown out. But they're not going to beat anybody playing like that either, as they weren't able to get things done last week. And at the end of the day, I don't think that they have enough in the tank to beat the Ravens, because the Ravens need to win this game. The Browns don't need to win this game. And I think if they do, hats off to the coaching staff for motivating them there. But do you think playing spoiler has anything to do with the Browns' hopes this weekend? I mean, I always debate whether that means something to guys or not. Like, I guess if there's an intense rivalry, and I mean, Browns-Ravens to the fan base is there. I don't know if it is to the players more than Browns-Steelers or so, but I don't know. How much does spoiler play in? Do you think the Browns have anything left in the tank here when they battle the Ravens?
I think the Browns have a chance. Not a great chance, but I think they do have a chance. I think that they don't really care too much about spoiling the Ravens' hopes, because the Ravens' hopes might end up being spoiled. I don't know if you heard, but Alex Smith is not going to be able to start for the Chiefs against the Chargers, so that's going to really hurt the Ravens. So they need, the Chiefs to beat the Chargers without Alex Smith. So I think the best thing that could happen to the Browns is for the Chargers to put up maybe 3 quick touchdowns on the Chiefs and have the Ravens see that up on the scoreboard. Oh, geez, San Diego's up 21-0. It really doesn't matter if we win or lose. We're not going to make the playoffs because the Chargers are beating the Chiefs. So we need that to happen, and maybe just take the wind out of their sails a little bit. Obviously, the winds are coming out of their sails a little bit considering how poorly they've run the ball the last couple of weeks. But I think overall, I think the Browns are really more motivated by trying to become 8-8 and just personally trying to impress the coaches. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to quite be enough because the Ravens defense is just really too tough with guys like C.J. Mosley and as well as, Dumerville and Suggs and stuff like that. So I think it's not impossible for the Browns to win, but I think it's more likely for them to lose.